My wife screamed at dinner. "I hate your family. They're toxic and I want a divorce." My parents were at the table. I responded, "Okay, let's start now." Then I called my lawyer on speakerphone and started the filing process while she sat there. When she realized I wasn't going to beg or fight, and the attorney said, "I can have papers ready by Monday," when my wife, Jessica, 34, exploded. Sunday dinners at my parents' house in suburban Denver had always been predictable. My dad, Mike, liked to tell bad golf jokes. My mum, Carol, was always nudging us to take seconds or thirds. Jessica had seemed off all evening, poking at her food and sighing. But I'd learned long ago not to force her to talk when she wasn't ready. For a few weeks now, she'd been irritable, withdrawn, snapping at minor things, nothing I could pin down. When my mum asked if we were joining them for Thanksgiving this year, Jessica slammed her fork down so hard I thought it might shatter. The clatter silenced the room instantly. "Are you kidding me right now?" my mum asked, her voice trembling just slightly. Jessica stood up so fast the chair screeched across the hardwood floor. "No, I can't do this anymore," she said, voice rising. "Every weekend, it's your family. Every holiday, every birthday, every random Sunday. I can't breathe." I tried to respond gently, lowering my voice. "Maybe we should talk about this at home," I offered. She shook her head, eyes blazing. "Why?" "So you can tell me I'm overreacting again. That they mean well, and I'm just too sensitive. No, I hate your family. Your mum treats me like hired help. Your dad always makes passive-aggressive comments, and you always take their side." I froze for a moment, letting the words settle. Mike set down his fork, and Carol looked like someone had slapped her across the face. The room was so silent I could hear the faint ticking of the kitchen clock. Jessica's voice grew sharper. "I want a divorce. I'm done with this marriage. Done with all of you." That's when it clicked. This wasn't just a bad night, a flare of temper, or even a breakdown. She had been planning this, practicing it, rehearsing it in her mind, choosing this exact moment for maximum impact. I leaned back slightly, maintaining eye contact. "Okay," I said again. Her body stiffened. "What?" she asked, incredulous. "Okay, let's get divorced," I replied. I could see her trying to process that I wasn't going to beg, to manipulate, to negotiate her out of it. On speaker, the lawyer answered after 2 rings. "Hey, what's up?" I said. "Sorry to bother you on a Sunday, but I need to start filing a divorce. My wife just asked for one at dinner. How fast can we move?" The room went completely still. Jessica's mouth fell open. My parents were speechless. The lawyer paused, then spoke methodically. "I can draft the initial paperwork tomorrow. You'll need to come in to sign. Any children?" "No," I said. "Major assets. Houses in both our names, 2 cars. Retirement accounts separate. Joint checking account. That's it." She lunged toward my phone. "Hang up now." I pulled it out of reach. Calmly, the lawyer continued. "If this is uncontested, 3 to 4 months. If she contests, maybe 6 to 12 months. Jessica's hands shook. Her voice cracked. "You're actually doing this?" I nodded. "You said you wanted a divorce. I'm giving you one in front of witnesses." Her jaw dropped. My parents sat frozen, eyes wide. I looked at them, then at Jessica. "Let's go," I said quietly. She stormed out, dragging her chair as if it carried all the weight of the world. I apologized softly to my parents, who were still shell-shocked. Mum reached across, squeezed my hand, while Dad just nodded, wordless. The drive home was silent, except for the low hum of the engine. Jessica kept staring, perhaps hoping I'd crack. But I didn't. I just drove. When we arrived, she went straight to the bedroom. I grabbed a beer, flicked on the TV, letting the adrenaline settle. 20 minutes later, she returned. "We need to talk about what just happened," she said. "You asked for a divorce. I called a lawyer. What else is there?" I shrugged. "You were clear. Papers are being drafted tomorrow. This is your decision, not mine." Her voice softened, the manipulative tone she used when she wanted to steer me. "Baby, I'm sorry." I just snapped. "Can't we forget it?" I took a sip of beer, steadying myself. "Which part?" I asked. "The divorce," she said, waving it off like it was a trivial mistake. "What about hating my family?" I pressed. "You're twisting this." I looked at her with quiet intensity. "You either meant what you said, or you were trying to hurt people I love. Either way, we're done." For the first time, I saw the vulnerability beneath her mask, the actual tears, not the manipulative ones. She slumped back, sobbing. I stayed calm, unmoved. The choice had been hers. The consequences too. I woke up the next morning feeling the strange mix of exhaustion and relief. The previous night had been a blur, and yet something inside me felt clear. I headed straight to my lawyer's office, determined to get the paperwork moving. Jessica's phone had been blowing up with voicemails, texts, and emails throughout the night. Apologies, threats, rambling confessions. It was like watching someone on a roller coaster of emotions. But I didn't respond. Not a word at the office. Everything was ready. Standard, no-fault divorce. 50/50ths split. The house would be sold. Cars divided, retirement accounts untouched, joint checking accounts split evenly. My lawyer smiled wryly. "If she agrees, this wraps up quick. If she contests, it'll take longer. But you're in a strong position." She literally asked for a divorce in front of witnesses. I signed the papers with a sense of detached calm. It was almost surreal after 5 years. 5 years of shared dreams, routines, and little Sunday dinners. We were officially closing this chapter. Driving home, I thought about the chaos that had started just a day ago. Jessica was pacing, the house a mess. Cups scattered on the counter, magazines strewn across the living room. She was crying again, her voice shaky. "Where were you?" she demanded. "Lawyer's office," I replied, signing the papers. The color drained from her face. Her hands trembled. "You actually went. You really did it." I nodded. "Yes. You said you wanted this. I'm following through." She tried to argue, tried to pull me back, but I remained firm. "This is not me punishing you. You made your choice." Her tone shifted, softer, pleading. "We can work this out. Counseling. Something, please." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice even. "Jessica, part of being honest is respecting what people say. You said it too meant it. That's the reality. Trying to rewind it doesn't undo the fact that you hurled years of resentment at my parents and demanded a divorce in front of them." Her crying escalated, uncontrollable now. She shook, sobbing in a way I hadn't seen before, the real, raw emotion, stripped of her usual manipulative undertones. I stayed on the couch, quiet, letting her release what she needed. Hours passed. Eventually, she retreated to the bedroom, leaving me with the lingering hum of the TV and the ache of 5 years crumbling in a few short hours. Over the following days, the situation became even more chaotic. Her sister called, screaming at me over the phone, describing me as cold, heartless, a man abandoning his wife over a minor conflict. Her mother left voicemail after voicemail, guilt-laden, demanding I reconsider. Social media messages poured in accusations, shame, and pleas. I blocked every number, every platform. The storm raged, but I stayed grounded. Jessica had chosen this path, and the consequences were hers. Then came the harassment. Someone flagged my apartment application, claiming I was a destructive tenant, an obvious attempt to block my housing. My lawyer and I discussed options, restraining order, harassment charges. That night, she even found the hotel I was staying in, pounding on the door, demanding I talk. Security had to escort her out. I checked out early, moved to a new apartment. Without announcing it, paying for first month, last month, and security deposit. My dad helped me move some furniture over the weekend. It was me reclaiming control, reclaiming space to think, to breathe. Meanwhile, Jessica's antics didn't stop. Emails, demands, threats of legal action, her lawyer arguing she deserved more because she'd sacrificed emotionally during the marriage. It was relentless. My lawyer remained unshaken. We respond with the same offer. Judges don't like time wasting. Mediation was scheduled. First in-person meeting with Jessica in 6 weeks. She looked hollow, lost weight, circles under her eyes, hair a mess. My heart twinged for a moment more, almost imperceptible. But I reminded myself, the choice she made wasn't mine to fix. The mediator asked each side to state their position. Her lawyer led, painting her as mistreated, emotionally abandoned, claiming I had no effort to save the marriage. When it was my turn, I simply stated, she said she hated my family and wanted a divorce. I gave her exactly that. The mediator's pen paused. My words were firm but not cruel. This wasn't about punishment. It was about clarity, boundaries, and respecting reality. Hours of negotiation followed, primarily over assets, house equity, car ownership, the joint account. Eventually, we agreed. She'd get a slightly higher amount from the house, extra $2,000. I retained my car, she hers. Retirement accounts remained untouched. Joint checking split. Mediator promised the judge would finalize it within a week or two. Walking out, she tried to intercept me. Can we get coffee, just to talk? I shook my head. You got closure at the dinner table, that's it. Her family, predictably, was furious. Her mother glared at me from the parking lot, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Her sister called later, calling me every name in the book. I blocked all of them. The lesson was becoming clearer. Once someone weaponizes your family, once someone shows their hand in front of witnesses, there's no going back without carrying the shadow of that moment forever. The weeks following were a strange mixture of calm and chaos. The house sold quickly, the proceeds split, new furniture bought for my apartment, savings rebuilt. I even went on a few casual dates, nothing serious yet, but it felt good to reclaim autonomy over my life. Sunday dinners returned to normal. Mike cracking bad golf jokes. Carol bustling round the table. Peace. My parents and I, closer than ever, laughing over old traditions. No tension lurking in the corners. Through it all, I reflected on what I'd learned. 5 years had gone in a blur of love, frustration, compromise, and conflict. But one clear truth remained. When someone tells you who they are, when they weaponize your family or openly express disdain in front of witnesses, believe them. I did, and it hurt. It cost money, time, and emotional energy, but it saved me from years of walking on eggshells. from being manipulated under the guise of love. I was tired, yes, but finally unburdened. Life settled into a strange, fragile rhythm after the divorce was finalized. A few weeks later, the judge signed the papers, officially ending 5 years of marriage. Jessica moved out, closer to her sister, taking her portion of the house equity. I stayed behind, turning my new apartment into a space that felt mine for the first time in years. A cheap mattress, a second-hand couch from Facebook Marketplace, a small TV, but it was mine. My routines returned to my control, Sunday dinners without tension, the freedom to watch a game uninterrupted, the liberty to go out with friends without checking if she'd be okay with it. The emails stopped eventually, but not without one last jab, a message dripping with guilt and sorrow. Hope you realize what you threw away. We could have worked through this if you weren't so stubborn. I read it once, felt the familiar pang of regret mixed with clarity, and then blocked her permanently. Her family tried a few last times calls, texts, even running into mutual friends to sway opinions, but I didn't engage. They didn't understand that I hadn't abandoned her in anger. I had honored the decision she made at the dinner table. Friends who mattered supported me quietly. A few even admitted they had suspected she harbored resentment toward my family for years. That hurt to hear, yes, but it also confirmed something I'd known in my gut. Ignoring the red flags for the sake of peace only delays the inevitable. I learned an expensive lesson in emotional honesty. Sometimes the bravest act is accepting reality, no matter how ugly, and following through with integrity. There were moments when I questioned myself. Could we have gone to counseling? Could we have salvaged this? Maybe, but Jessica had weaponized my family, turning ordinary Sunday dinners into battlegrounds of guilt and accusation. How could I unsee that? Each future disagreement would carry the shadow of that night. Each holiday, each family gathering would be tainted by her ability to manipulate and escalate. I realized that protecting myself and my family meant walking away firmly, without hesitation. I began to rebuild not just my life, but my sense of self. New routines, new independence, and the small joys of being untethered from constant drama. I even allowed myself a few casual dates, nothing serious, but a reminder that life doesn't stop after a painful chapter closes. Watching my parents laugh freely again, seeing my mom's hands no longer tense with worry, feeling the ease of our family dinners. I understood what I had protected, my own sanity and my family's peace. Months passed, and one afternoon, Jessica showed up at my parents' house. She was apologetic, tearful, pleading. I wasn't there, but my parents recounted the encounter. She said she didn't mean it, my mum said, voice shaking, that she was stressed and it came out wrong. She wanted to see if you could stop the divorce. My dad's tone was careful, almost worried. Be careful, son. Desperate people do desperate things. I nodded, recognizing the pattern. It wasn't about reconciliation. It was about control. I had learned that lesson the hard way. Eventually, even the harassment stopped. Property manager incidents, threats, and show-ups were behind me. I settled fully into my apartment, bought furniture, and rebuilt my savings. The divorce had cost me money, time, and emotional energy. Yes, but it gave me freedom and clarity in return. I began to see the larger picture, a partner willing to publicly weaponize my family and demand. Divorce in front of witnesses wasn't someone I could compromise with. No matter the apologies or regrets later, I reflected on the journey often. The heartbreak, the anger, the logistical headaches of mediation and legal proceedings, all left scars. But it also left wisdom. I understood now that love without respect, without trust, and without emotional honesty is fragile at best. And sometimes, when someone shows you who they truly are, in the most dramatic way possible, you have to believe them. I did, and it hurt, but it also saved me from years of walking on eggshells, of compromising my own values and peace. A few months later, life had settled into a steady rhythm. Sunday dinners were restored to their calm, joyful traditions. My parents and I laughed freely, unburdened by tension or guilt. Friends came over without the shadow of her presence looming. I even allowed myself to open up again, slowly, carefully, to someone new, but nothing serious yet. The scars were still there, subtle reminders, but they were tempered by the freedom I had earned. Every now and then, someone would ask if I regretted calling the lawyer that Sunday evening, that fateful night at dinner. My answer was always the same: no. Not because it was easy, but because it was the right decision. Jessica had chosen to weaponize my family, to demand divorce, to act in ways that left no room for compromise. I respected her choice, but I respected myself, my family, and my peace even more. And so I moved on. Not perfectly, not magically, but with a clarity I hadn't had in years. Life was quieter, steadier, and remarkably mine. The lessons lingered. Red flags are real. Boundaries are essential. And when someone shows you their true colors, believe them. My ex had made her choice. I had made mine. And in the end, I was the one left standing, stronger, wiser, and finally unburdened.